Oh, hi. I'm James Myers. I'm creator of the app Dungeons & Dragons 5e NPC Simulator. Now, have you ever wondered, man, I wish there was a way that I could create nearly endless NPCs? Well, let me tell you, with my app, you can create over 38.5 million NPCs, all unique in their own separate way. Here, let me show you. Here we have the home screen of the app. And what we see is that we have the ability to generate, and then we have the ability to go more in depth with the characteristics. So if the person using the app wanted to just quickly generate it, as soon as they open up the app, they would just click generate, and it comes up with a whole list of characters, or a whole list of character traits for it. It gives you a name, it gives you a race of what the character is in the world, and it gives a profession. And then after that, it gives us a descriptive traits of what the character is. The first one is a descriptive trait of that race and how it is seen in the world that Dungeons and Dragons has created. And then the one underneath that is the personality trait for this specific character. And after that, it comes out with a descriptive trait, two physical descriptive traits that range from that anywhere on the body. So the first one is one physical descriptive trait, and then the other one is after this. The same thing is after that. So you see here that the first one is he tries to wave, but no one's responding because the man doesn't have a hand. He's missing a hand. And then the second descriptive trait, we see that the guy's eyes are heterochromatic, which means that he has two different color eyes. And it'll be different two characteristic traits for every single person. So for this one, it's the hands are scarred and deformed, and then the one underneath that, the hands are muddy, or his feet are muddy, deformed. Now, you also can see that obviously the name, race, and profession are different, and they will be pretty much every time you click it. So it adds for a good variety in which the characters, just the characters are named. Obviously, the whole point of this app is to just guide the user into creating an NPC. What is generated on the screen does not have to be the end game in which the character is created. The Dungeon Master or the user of the app has full creative liberty to just pick and choose what they want from the generation. So if they like a name, they can click that. But if they don't like anything else, they can click it again, and they can choose different traits for everything. Or they can just see a trait, get an idea from that, and then work off that idea. They don't have to use the exact trait that is seen on the screen. They can if they want to, but there's nothing that's forcing them to. It's essentially just a guideline to create a character that fits their world perfectly. Now, the app also allows for a more pick and choose section as well. If you go to the characteristics, it comes up, it takes you to a new screen with a race, profession, and body features, essentially everything that's in that generation screen. So if you click on race, it brings you to a fragment, a list view of all the races. And if you select the race, it gives you a descriptive just phrase of that race. And everyone has their own specific thing. So, yeah. And so when you go back, you can then collect on professions. Now, a profession is just a list view because I figured most of these professions are self-explanatory and don't need an entire separate half of the screen to describe what they are. But there's a whole list of professions here that the user can choose from in selecting their NPC or giving their NPC a purpose in that world, rather than just they just are here. Now they have kind of more of a backstory to why they're there and what they do. And you can go to the body features, which then come up with a whole other list of everything.
and each category here has roughly between 5 and 8 other phrases that are descriptive terms that the user can use if they really want to get into depth with what they want their character to look like or to be seen by the players. So if you click on eyes, there's options that shows like heterochromia, lifeless, it's like cloudy because they're blind, they're dark eyes, they're bright eyes, etc. And if you want to go to their hands, you can have scarred and deformed, they're missing parts or missing a whole hand. The hands are pasty, mangled, other things. Really all this stuff is this body trait descriptive phrases is kind of like a small thing, but if the DM wants to use it, it could help in giving the players a much clearer idea and much more like it brings the character to life and it lets the players imagine who they're talking to a lot more easier than just saying, "Here's a guy, talk to him." It adds more life to the game. And now it's time to go into more depth with how my app works and how it operates. So with I guess we can start off with all my intents. What we have here is all my separate screens, pretty much. So we have the main activity right here, which deals with, there's a bunch of text views, a bunch of buttons, or 2 buttons, and then a bunch of private strings, which we'll get into later. But with everything that's in here, we have 2 buttons. We have a button that, when clicked, is the generate button. So it picks a number. It picks a number between 0 and the length of a names array that I've created, and then I associate that number with a index within that array, and it selects that index and prints it to the TV name right here. And essentially that happens with all of the descriptive phrases that we see when generate is clicked, because it generates another number for professions, character descriptions, race, etc. And it does that all the way down to all the features. Now, the next button is the characteristics button. Now, when this button is selected, it takes you into the attribute selection intent and activity, which that one is the one that allows you to select the race, profession, or body attributes. So then it takes you to that second screen, which then is this class right here. And this class is really nothing more than just a transfer class. It's just a kind of middleman thing where there's 3 buttons that you select. If you select race, it brings you to that race list that we saw earlier, and professions, and body attributes, its own separate thing as well. Now, the body attributes and professions are essentially what we've seen before. Professions is just one simple list frag, and body attributes is just another activity and where there's a bunch of buttons to just bring you to that separate list frag. The most different one would have to be the race. Would have to be the race section. Now, with the race section, this one is a little bit different because when I created it, I had to create not only a list frag, but I also had to create another fragment. The right fragment of the screen had to be the detail of that selected left list item. So when I did that, I had to create a whole another fragment. So when that item is clicked, on the left, it brings a descriptive phrase to the right. So that is what the right side of here is 4, and there's really nothing there other than a text view. So then when that item is clicked in the proper class, when that on item selected right here, when that item is clicked, it sets that text view, which is called TV description, to that index clicked number of the description class. So every race is every race has an index, and when you click that specific race, it sends that index number into the descriptions array, and then it picks out the description associated with that index and brings it to the other screen. So that way, every time you click the certain race, the correct description pops up. The final thing that I would like to show off would be my arrays list. I accidentally created two array XML files because I didn't realize that I could just keep adding string arrays at the first time. But this string array is the races. So you can see the race string array right there. It has all the races with their respective indexes. And then right here, you can see that there's actually descriptions. So every race has its own description right there. And you go to the other file, we have all of everything else. So whenever you see a profession that's generated, when you click generate, it just picks a random value through this list right here and it puts it there. And then if you go down, same thing with personality. It picks a random personality trait. So there's 50 professions, there's 50 personalities, there's about 50 personality traits. So just 1 in 50 chance, so 2% chance that any of these things gets actually selected as of right now. And after that, then there's names. It just picks from a list of, I think, around 70 names or so. Yeah, it picks around 70 names. And features. Okay, the features gets a little more in depth because it goes, so there's forehead, eyes, ears, teeth, nose, skin, hair, torso, hands, and feet. So there's 10. There's 10 possible features that could be selected for those two descriptive traits at the end of the generation. That like two bigger paragraph kind of spots. And so when it does the same thing, it picks a random one and then it generates it. So we have the 4 here. It picks one of the 4 and it generates it right there. And the you see how there's eyes descript and then brief eyes descript. Eyes descript, that string array is what goes in the generation screen, to where the brief eyes descript goes along with the eye descript, but then there's a couple more that can go into that list view underneath the characteristics, body features, and then the respective section. So that's what the difference between the eyes descript and the brief eyes descript. And then it's the same way for every single body part. And yeah. So based on all of those, every single string array and every single possibility that could be added into these sections on the app, if my math is correct, there should be well over like 38.5 million possibilities for a NPC to be generated. Now, obviously, it could be the differences could be small, but there are over 38 million unique possible NPCs that this app could generate. And I think that is incredibly helpful for anyone who's either getting into it or just trying to make NPCs for the world, because it adds for a lot of variety that could be thrown out there. For example, the campaign that I'm in right now, we're talking to some lord, and the DM just used a bunch of like descriptive phrases, and it allowed us to just visualize who we were talking to rather than everyone else thinking of a different person who we're talking to. We all knew for sure that we're all imagining the same person. So I think that adds well for the just the like fleshing out the world and just making the world seem more real. So I think that by allowing the user to have at least two descriptive traits that come out of one generation, it allows them to either use those descriptive traits or just create more based off the idea that my descriptive traits have given them. And I feel like that will just make for an all around better experience for not only the user of this app, but the people that this is playing with the user.
Don't take my word for it. Look at all of our happy customers.
I used to spend hours trying to make new and creative characters for Dungeons and Dragons. Now, thanks to the Dungeons and Dragons 5e NPC generator, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And honestly, it feels great.
As a dungeon master, my day is plagued with hours of thinking of characters to put in these worlds. But with Dungeons & Dragons 5e NPC generator, I don't have to. It creates quality characters in no time at all, so I can have less time stressing and more time playing.
I'm no accounting major, but with 38,500,000 possible characters, Dungeons & Dragons 5e NPC generator is endless fun.